August, would you believe it? This year is going in a flash, but that's also because there's so much happening. And of course, a big eye on Kumbh, which is what we'll deep dive into today.
Right, we're going to talk all about the history of Kumbh, but also what people's experiences have been in the last few days. I'm Toya Singh. Let's very quickly first take you through everything we have on the show.
Faith, history and culture. What makes Kumbh a global phenomena? Historians' take on the grandeur of MahaKumbh. How historian Nick captured the spirit of MahaKumbh and also decoded what it really means for him, for India and for the world.
And after that, we take you to something entirely different. We're taking you to the story of Bempu. What is Bempu? It's an incredible new technology that saves lives. A little bracelet you can put on an infant. It beeps if the child's temperature falls. And this bracelet, called one of Time Magazine's 25 Best Designs, has saved more than 100,000 lives of children in the last few years.
And it's Friday, like we say, the weekend watch itinerary. We've got that running for you, from action to horror to comedy. What's making the hits on the big screen and the small ones. Also, a lot of festivals doing the rounds, especially one on spoken literature. We'll give you your weekend guide. All right, the Kumbh Mela, one of the largest spiritual gatherings on the planet, is not just about faith and rituals anymore. It has also become a massive social media moment where influencers, content creators and global storytellers bring their grandeur, the devotion, cultural significance to the screens worldwide. Digital creators have played a big role in shaping how we perceive and engage with the age-old traditions.
So, Jan 29th marked one of the most significant Snan days. There were lakhs and lakhs of devotees, as we all know, in Prayagraj, in that act of faith. And beyond everything that happened, beyond the visuals, beyond the viral reels, there's also a weight to that day. We thought we'd have some of the people who were present on that day share their experiences, but also share their experiences covering all of the Maha Kumbh in the last few days.
Also, so how has social media then shaped the storytelling around Kumbh? To discuss this, we are joined by Nick Puka. He's here with us on the show, on the sets here today, better known as Indo Genius. Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Namaskar, Sonalji. Namaskar,
Namaskar.
Toyaji.
Lovely, lovely. Love that, Nick. So you have just come back from Kumbh. Let me start by asking you the easiest question. Describe what it was like being at Kumbh in one word or perhaps a line.
Well, look, I've had the honour and privilege of being at Kumbh twice already. So I initially went on day 0, Posh Purnima, and then on Makar Sankranti for the first Shahi Amrit Snan. And then I was able to return, this time with my wife and daughter, for the last few days for Mauni Amavasya. So it was very, very special, incredible honour and privilege to visit Kumbh twice. I was, last night, I've been back home in Delhi, and I can still hear Kumbh. There is a sound to Kumbh, which is impossible to describe because it's a combination of the devotees, people singing bhajans as they walk through the crowd so they can all stay together as a group, loudspeaker announcements, a general hum, and there's this incredible Kumbh sound, which I can still hear resonating in my ears.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about the last time you were there. You also plan to go again. So
Yeah.
talk about that. And if maybe we should actually do this right now. Let's just play out for our audiences one of the videos of yours that have gone viral explaining Kumbh. Then we'll come back to you to hear more from you. Let's just do that for our audiences. All right, that's playing in the side. We can't actually hear it yet.
Yeah.
So when it's queued up, we'll actually go back to it. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like the second time you went, and then we'll talk about the future, the fact that you want to go again.
So the second time was the greatest gathering of humanity to ever have taken place. And actually, I think Prayag is a place that has been visited by more people over time than anywhere else on earth. If you think there are tens of millions, crores of people there right now, There have been millions of people visiting each year for the MahaKumbh Melas, as well as the Kumbhs and the Kumbhs. Hundreds of thousands in the millennia past. And if you add that cumulatively up, over 1 billion people have visited this place. So it has that combined focus and attention for such a long period of time. And when we were there on Mauni Amavasya, this is the silent new moon. This is the moment when the creation of the universe is said to have taken place right there at Prayag, in the Prithvi Jaya Jaganam, the loins of the earth. This is where everything came into existence, where earth and where atmosphere and heaven separated, Bhur Bhuva Swaha, separated out. And the Akshaya tree at the Sangam and the Brahma Yupa pole that is said to be the axis of the universe is right there at Prayag. Okay, so this is an incredibly important place in terms of the focus of time, of history, of devotion, of faith. Now, as we're approaching this moment, Mauni Amavasya, it's a countdown, a celestial countdown. You've got 3 clocks, all synchronizing. You've got Jupiter, Brihaspati, entering into Taurus, Vrishab. Then you've got the sun, Surya, entering Makha, Capricorn. And then finally, you have the countdown in the Krishna Paksh, down towards Mauni Amavasya, down towards the new moon. Everything is getting darker and darker until the new moon, when everything is at its stillest. And it's at that moment that tens of millions of people want to come to the same place. And tragically, a population the size of the United Kingdom trying to get to an area that's smaller than Central Park. And tragically, in the crowds, there was this awful stampede, this crush. And it was in a location that I had the privilege, the fortune to be at last week for Makar Sankranti, the first Shahi Amritsar, with my friends and family there. And this time, we were actually on the Arail on the southern side on Mauni Amavasya that night, that fateful night. And we only heard word of what was going on as we entered boats at, just before sunrise in the Brahma Muhurat. So we were entering onto these boats. We were hearing these awful kind of whispers, rumors, stories. And we were going out into the waters with the anticipation of taking a snan, pindan, turpan, remembering our ancestors, giving thanks for them, helping them in their journeys. I have an Indian wife, me too. I have Indian family members, so we were thinking of those. We were thinking my parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, the Prayagwals, the acharyas that are doing the turpan for you, are making you remember the names of all of your relatives that have gone before you. In my case, my father, my wife's case, her mother and father, as well as grandparents and great-grandparents. 21 generations of ancestors. And it is that is the motivator for so many of the tirthyatris, the devotees, to travel all across India, all across the world in some cases, to this place at this time. They're not doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for getting a child into university or a good marriage or a healthy bank account or the stock market to go up. They're doing it for their ancestors, their parents and their grandparents. They're doing it to serve others. They're putting their own lives at risk to be there. And when we heard that some of them may have lost their lives, that made the whole experience just very different, because it suddenly brought home the importance of this to those people, the fact that they're willing to risk lives. And whilst we were, on the one hand, so happy to be there and so grateful to be there, also we were thinking of them. So we then started to all think and pray for the families and the lives that were lost, and the loved ones and the people that were trying to find each other in the crowds. So it was a very different experience. Last week, the Makar Sankranti Snan was one where just filled of joy, pure anand, pure bliss. It was incredible. Coming in and out of the water, taking Snan, was just a beautiful, joyful experience. But this time, because of what had happened at the Sangam Nose, it became much more real, much more powerful, and it really hit me in the heart. I'm just going to
pause you over there for a minute to... No, I can see you're just overwhelmed with so many emotions.
Yeah, it is actually quite emotional, just thinking about it.
It is, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. So, I just want to understand first that, do you think what happened will change how things are over there?
The managing a crowd the size of the population of the UK is no mean feat. What the government, what the UP police are doing is extraordinary. I mean, it is a miracle of crowd management to have so many people visit such a small place. But the real reason why people are able to do this successfully, peacefully, for the vast majority, and why this, these things are so awful and so tragic because they're so exceptional, is the crowd, the people, the devotees, the tirthyatris, the kalpvasis. They're there for such beautiful reasons. There's a very, there's a very sattvic atmosphere. People are there for the right reasons. They're there for others, and people are, by and large, there's a lot of accommodation and movement. And yes, you can, if people are pushing behind you, it's, there's a moment when it's tough, and that's when, in a split second, things can tragically change. A barrier can break, or people who are on the floor in front can, end up having people coming over them. Yeah. But most people are just moving as one beautiful, compromising, consensus-driven, we're all heading in this direction, you're heading in that direction. There's a flow and part of being a big crowd where the ego and the individual dissolves in this sea of oneness that you have to physically experience. And it's not like being in a crowd, getting onto the Underground at Oxford Circus in London, getting onto the Tube or the New York subway, or going, dare I say it, God bless Chris Martin and his friends, but it's not like queuing outside a stadium to get into a music concert or going to a music festival. I've experienced all of those things. This is different, and it is much more sattvic and much more kind of like accommodating.
I want to ask you, one of the things we've talked about so much, Nick, even before you came here, was the fact that we talk so much about the spiritual importance of this place, but historically, economically, architecturally, there's a whole other story here that is also to be celebrated. Could you touch on that?
There are really good reasons to think that this is the most important place on Earth. I mean, if over 1 billion people have visited this place, now most of them obviously are doing it for reasons of faith, of shrad, of devotion, okay? Yeah. So there's a spiritual angle to that. And there's a personal bhakti, there are rituals, there are things that they're doing as individuals. Then there are sadhus. Now the sadhus are exemplars of people who have accomplished their sadhana, their practices, renunciation. They've given up the life, the comforts of the lives that we lead as householders, as grihast. And they are there to share their teachings and share their experiments with consciousness and what it is to be human, okay? Then you have the acharyas and the great gurus and the wisdom and the teachers there. So think about Kumbh as the world's largest open university. Okay? So this is a place where people for thousands of years have come together to learn. It's like going to a scientific conference, but the students are invited, not just the academics. So everyone is coming there to learn from teachers that have come from different parts of the country or the world. They're coming together to share their experiments, their experiments with what it is to be human, their experiments with consciousness. Then you've got the trade aspects, you've got business, you've got revenue, economic, and that's always been part of Kumbh. People bringing and selling things as part of that. But you keep winding back these layers. You've got a geological layer. We're north of the Vindhya Hills. We're on the alluvial plans that have fed tens of billions of people over the millennia. Okay, there's 800 million people today in that area, but if you add the population up, it's tens of billions. So that's because of the jal, that's because of the water, the rivers and the rain. It's because of the bhumi, it's because of the fertile soil where all the nutrients are coming off the Himalaya, which is like this giant kind of source of nutrients, and the surya, the sunshine. So all of that comes together in the Gangetic plain. So these huge rivers are there, rivers of life, Ma Ganga, Ma Yamuna, coming together and nourishing the lives of billions of people at the most densely populated part of the world in our species history. So that is the significance from a geological, geographical perspective. Historically, you have not only all these people coming together, but you have the kings. You have Buddha must have visited on his way from Varanasi through to Kaushambi. Ashoka. You have Harshvardhana, the emperor, when Shanzang, the Chinese traveler, visited. Harshvardhana was there. We know that Akbar built his fort there in 1584. Jahangir declared himself emperor when he split from his father Akbar in 1600 and ruled from Allahabad as it was 1600, 1604. Then you have the British East India Company, 1765, signing the Treaty of Allahabad at Allahabad Fort, at Prayag, which gave them the Divani over Bengal, Bihar, Odisha. Then in 1858, you have Canning reading out Victoria's proclamation, which ends the East India Company rule and transfers power to the British government, the British Raj. Then you have independence movement, Anand Bhavan, the Nehru family, all of the action that was going on in Daraganj and civil lines. You have, in 1954, the first president of India, Rajendra Prasad, is a Kalpvasi. He takes the vow to stay there for 30 days. He is eating uncooked food and simple dal chawal. He's taking snan 3 times a day. He's with the people. Pradhan Mantri, first Prime Minister Nehru visits in 1954. So this, I mean, you go back thousands of years.
You could go on and on.
Yes.
And Nick, the way you
Every
describe
level.
the way you describe it, trust me, we could also go on and on listening to you. But I'm worried my viewers would be wondering at this point that who is this guy? How does he know so much about India? So can you tell us the story of how Nick became Indo-genius?
No, I'm not Indo-genius. No, I'm just Nick, and all I'm celebrating is the Indo-genius, okay? So Kumbh Mela is Indo-genius.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing it.
Yeah,
your
yeah,
next,
but
your next
tell us-
segment on this technology, this sounds like Indo-genius.
There is a story here, though,
UPI
to be
is
fair.
Indo-genius.
If it's all right for me to share, the way in which you've come to be in love with India, your story where it is that, you met your wife, you've gone on to build this platform that educates, that spreads so much knowledge. And it's not just about Kumbh, right? I want to share one of your most viral videos explains to audiences why INA is INA, the market in Delhi. So how did that come to be? How did that be the path that you chose?
Yeah, what makes you fall in love
I'm
with
naturally
India every
curious,
day? Yeah.
and I'm really pro people. I love humanity. I think that what we have between our ears is the most sophisticated, complicated, and extraordinary thing in the world, the human brain. And there are more human brains and more consciousness here in India. And I think weirdly with this world of artificial intelligence we're kind of not giving enough credit for just how extraordinary human consciousness is. And what really makes human consciousness so special is that it's connected to the heart, to Shrid, right? So we have a heart. No machine will ever have a heart. No AI, no DeepSeek, no OpenAI. None of them will ever have a heart. We have manas, we have a mind, we have a heart. And we have chit, we have the ability, and bud, we have the ability to discriminate, and we have a history and experiences that our ancestors, our parents, culture, texts, everything pours into us and through us into our actions. And in India, you have more people than anywhere else on earth. So if you're pro-people, India's cool. You've had more people living here over history. So again, you've got more collective experience than anywhere else on earth. And you have the warmest, friendliest, kindest, most generous, most loving people on earth. The compassion that you see in India. And of course there are exceptions, and there are plenty of nasty people doing nasty things. But generally speaking, and when you're at a place like Kumbh Mela, you are experiencing that, whether it's the bandaras, whether it's the helping people across the road or through the crowds. This is a place where you experience that humanity and the scale and the compassion and the consciousness and the heart better than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that's why I love India and Indians, and why I have loved going to Kumbh Mela, and I can't wait to go back.
This is a good time to ask you, what was your big takeaway from Kumbh? Did you come back with one learning, with one awakening? What would that be?
Can't beat a good snan. Really, I'm never cold water is not something that we go to Rishikesh quite often. I have taken snans in Marganga. One of the most extraordinary experiences I had was the total solar eclipse in Varanasi. And I did get into Marganga there that day. But it's the fact that these rituals there are reasons behind rituals, and listen to what is being said and investigate the etymology, the meanings of the words, try and get to the essence. So tarpan, satisfying one's ancestors. So it's just, if there's something incomplete, you need to fill it in that moment. And obviously hoping to pass that on to our daughter, hoping that one day she'll return there. One of the most beautiful experiences of the whole trip. This would be my takeaway. She was with one of her friends, And we were there on Monima Amavasya. We were there at the Triveni Sangam. We were on the boat, handboat, and they looked at each other and they said, spontaneously, they said, next time Jupiter enters Taurus and Sun enters Capricorn, we will come here. And they made a promise to, in 12 years' time, they'll be 21 years old then, to come back to the same place. I thought that was very beautiful. So I got to remember that.
How do you, because you're raising this young daughter, how are you bringing in all of this knowledge into her life? Where is she curious? What are the aspects in her day-to-day she finds, she's still curious about when it comes to Indian history, when it comes to getting to know about Indian spirituality? And how do you sort of give her those leads without coming across as that dad that just has too much information to tell their kid?
It's not just me. My wife, Meetu, is Indian. We lived with my mother-in-law for many years, so there's a lot of Indian
influence,
family kind of knowledge poured in. We were there with other family members, Shabani and Raghav. They came with us, so it's a family effort. But for me, obviously, I'm an outsider, so I have this curiosity and this trying to understand how things come together, and I think that's one advantage that foreigners have. So if you look at the history of the Kumbh, many of the texts we have, apart from the Prayag Mahatmya and the Puranas and Mahabharat and Tulsidas Rama, there's lots of Indian sources, but there's also these foreigners, whether it be Chinese or British or Greek, who've come to this and they've described it with the curiosity that you can only really have as an outsider. Why is that happening? Why are they doing that? What's going on here? And I've just fully, over 17 years, just fully embraced every opportunity that this wonderful country and people and my family have offered, and then sharing that with our daughter and making her realize how lucky she is to live in this extraordinary city. Delhi is amazing. It's the best place in the world if your eyes are open to the opportunities to learn and experience what it is to be human. It's all here. And the trees and the birds are fabulous. And the birds at Kumbh were amazing. We saw pied kingfishers, which are the only kingfishers to hover, flying above the waters at the Sangam, at the confluence, and then diving in and dipping into the Amrit.
Because they knew.
Coming out.
They knew too.
All right, Nick, lovely, absolutely lovely to have you. We could do this for a really long time, but maybe we'll sit offline and talk more about it. See you. No, maybe before that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't have to be a Kumbh related.
And what's amazing is that you might be thinking that Nick knows so much, more than what a lot of Indians would also perhaps get into. But that's the beauty. Sangam is an opportunity, Kumbh is an opportunity for us to all deep dive into our history and understand the true meaning behind it as well. Thank you so much. It's time to thank you and bring on our next guest. Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati, spiritual head of the Rishikesh-based Padma Niketan Ashram, is with us this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much, Namaskar, for joining us here on the Breakfast Club. Sadhvi ji, can we start by asking you about your biggest takeaways from Kumbh this time around?
It's so wonderful to be with you, and
okay, we'll look to re-establish that connection. Yeah, right. We've spoken to Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati before too, and we'll reconnect with her in just a few minutes. Oh, you did at that exact.
Yeah, I can speak about it.
Yeah,
that's really so. We'll actually reconnect with her in a second, and as we do, Nick, we'll just come to you if that's all right.
Yeah.
We'll ask you a little bit more about your entire journey with. If it's all right, if we can go back to talking a little bit about indigenous and the larger Indian story around it. We were talking, and one of the things that you've said again and again is that India has something. Beyond Delhi, India also has a very, very interesting lesson to share with the world. And I want to ask you to touch on that for a second, because the spiritual India is a journey and a story the world is familiar with. But you're saying it's actually beyond that.
Okay, right. Let's talk about Prayag. So what is this place? Prayag is the foremost yagya, the foremost offering. And it's said that Brahma carried out the first yagya at this place. What is a yagya? A yagya is an offering of something of value in order to transform it so that it can bring benefits to the devas, to the gods, and to the participants, the yajaman, the community, the people who are present. Now, they are building altars, Vedi, and that is what was said to have been created for the first time there at Prayag. And the priests they're reading or their mantras,
Scriptures,
they're chanting mantras, they're chanting using software, they're using language combined with hardware in order to create a virtual representation of the world that can be manipulated by adding in something of value in return for benefits such as health and prosperity and security and peace and power. Now this is what they're doing in Silicon Valley right now. They're doing the same thing in Google, in Microsoft, in OpenAI. They're using servers, they're using hardware, manipulating it with language in order to confer benefits. Now those things are related, both literally, in the sense that geometry comes out of the rituals from this place in order to understand space. And time and mathematics comes from the understanding of the stars and the need to calculate the precession of the sequence of the planets, the grahas, the sun, the moon, and so on. So we wouldn't have the modern world, modern science, and this computer age without the mathematics and the geometry and without the mindset that we see there in the yagya. So it's very relevant. But the most important thing in the yagya is what is going on inside the consciousness of the participants, the yajaman, but also of the priests themselves and the brahmana sitting by the three fires. And that is the internalization and the transformation of the consciousness, which then can reach out through us to serve others.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on here, is that we're using these rituals in order to understand what our purpose needs to be, and our purpose needs to be helping others and serving others. And that is what the divine kind of calling is. And I believe that these rituals are directly, literally connected to the way that the modern world works.
Yeah.
And we must reconnect the purpose and the intention, which is the service of others and not the individual.
Then tell me this, it's so beautiful when you describe it like that, and perhaps that's where the meaning also comes from. But where do you think people often end up having a disconnect between a ritual and its meaning? It becomes like a routine that they do, and perhaps the meaning somewhere is lost. That is what we see in a lot of people in day-to-day life. Where do you think why that disconnect happens?
Because we're human. It's easy. We have senses, and we can be distracted, and we don't listen, and we're selfish, and we think about ourselves, and we think, oh, I could be watching CNN TV 18. Why am I sitting here doing this? So it's patience, time, and it's experiencing people setting an example, which again is why people go to Prayag, why people go to MahaKumbh Mela, because they're seeing the Kalpvasis, who are normal people like us.
Yeah.
They're householders, 2 million of them, on the banks, sleeping on straw, sleeping on the sand of Mar Ganga, under the cold, eating simple food, taking 3 snans a day. They are an example to us of what dedication can be. And then the sadhus and the sannyasis, next level. They've given up everything. They've given up their name, their identity, their family, their home, all of the comforts, all wealth, all power, in order that they can dedicate themselves to the exploration of consciousness as an exemplar to us. But they couldn't do what they're doing without us. We have a symbiotic relationship, the sadhus and us, the householders. This is one of the geniuses of India, the another example of Indo-genius. And that's important. They rely on us. Now, if you're a hermit living in a mountain on your own, eating fruits and berries, that's very, 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 very rare now, and arguably 3,000 years ago that started to diminish. Most people are living off alms, they're living off householders, donations of food or so on. So there's a symbiotic relationship. We need them to show us what discipline can achieve, what consciousness is able to achieve, and they need us in order to provide for them so that they can teach us. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
We're gonna, Nick, it was lovely to have those extra few minutes. Let's very quickly go to Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati.
Can I just add that we stayed with
right?
Sadhviji at Paramatniketan ashram, which is on the Arail side, very comfortable, very easy place to be in terms of the less crowds and beautifully organized, and we're so grateful to them looking after us.
Let's just go over to her. Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati ji, were you able to hear that? She's the spiritual head of the Rishikesh base Paramatha Niketan ashram, but I'm all right. Oh, so lovely. All right, we've been able to make that connection. Sadhvi ji, thank you for joining us. We were asking you a little earlier, what was your experience in Kumbh like? Do you continue to be there? Are you joining us from Prayagraj right now? Just give us that context.
I am joining you from Prayagraj, where our internet connection is fantastic and perfect. The internet connection sometimes comes and goes, but we are here for the key internet connection. And it's been extraordinary. I've been here since the 13th. I was here for the Makar Sankranti Snan. I was here for the Moni Amavasya Snan. And I will be here all the way through till Mahashivratri. And for me, one of the key core takeaways is this oneness of people. It is extraordinary. People of every race, of every religion, of every color, from every country, from all over the world, coming together, eating together, sleeping together, bathing together, praying together. It's been absolutely extraordinary. And having this opportunity after 144 years, an opportunity that not our parents or grandparents would have, neither our children, if they're not already here, nor our grandchildren, but being so blessed to be at this time where it's really like the energies of the universe are coming together for our awakening, for our freedom, for our spiritual connection. And being here with our global family has been such an amazing, amazing blessing.
All right, Sadhviji, thank you so much for joining us with the inner message on also the internet fluctuating there. And thank you to Nick as well for being with us here. And the sound of Kumbh, I think that's my takeaway that I will take back from this. We're going to take a moment over there. Oh, I believe we've got her back. We've got her back. Oh, okay, great. Sadhviji, so before we thought we lost your connection there for a minute, but it's good that you're there. Just wanted to understand, you know, how Nick some time ago was just describing it to us on how the sound of Kumbh is so beautiful. Just the experience of being there is difficult to describe in words. At this point, when so many people are coming in there, what do you think they come there looking for? What do you think there's this one thing people seek at Kumbh?
One of the things, I've been in India now for almost 30 years, living in Rishikesh, living at Parmarth Niketan on the banks of Ganga. And the devotion, that bhakti ki shakti, that shraddha, asta of the people of Bharat is extraordinary. And you see, I remember the day that I arrived on the 13th, the roads were getting closed for the Makar Sankranti Snan, and the roads were full of people just walking because they were closing to vehicles with all of their possessions on their head, walking kilometers and kilometers and kilometers, but no complaints, no grumbling, no frustration, just chanting God's name, just filled with gratitude. And it's such a lesson to us. I come originally from Los Angeles, originally quite literally from Hollywood. And what I've seen is there, the slightest inconvenience, the slightest trouble, and you've got people complaining, grumbling, frustrated, fighting. Here, walking kilometers and kilometers. Nobody knows where they're going to eat. They don't know where they're going to sleep. Now this year, of course, the government has been amazing with this digital Kumbh, QR codes everywhere for people to see where to sleep, where to eat, where to get everything. But all of these people walking just with Asta. People are coming because one of the things that makes India so beautiful and so great is that spiritual connection, and is that ability to put our spiritual growth at the highest of all of our other goals. You know, we speak about the Purusharth, all of the goals of life. And yet, even within all of the different goals, even within art and calm Dharma, of course, is there. But even amidst all of those, that yearning for moksha is there. So even while you are fulfilling art, or you're fulfilling calm, you're fulfilling dharma, we know that ultimately the highest goal is moksha. And so people are coming from every corner of the country, every corner of the world for that spiritual amrit, for that nectar of self-realization. Because immortality, of course, is not immortality of the body. It's the awareness that who we are has always been immortal, has always been eternal, has always been one with the divine. And that realization, that awakening, that freedom from therefore all of the binds and the chains of our attachments, our illusions, our expectations, is the freedom. That's the moksha that Ganga offers us. That's the amrit, the immortality that this kumbh offers us.
Sadhviji, thank you for touching so beautifully on what it is that we're seeing crores and crores of pilgrims come there for. We hope that you have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. We didn't get to touch on your journey into the country that, that's spread decades back. Nick, thank you for joining us. Thank you for touching beyond the spiritual, on the history, the economics, the agricultural. All right, we're going to have to head into a short break. And on the other side, we are shifting focus entirely. We'll tell you a bit about what we have planned on the other side, but we hope you enjoyed this chat. We'll see you in a few minutes.
So finally, the Vande Bharat train is in Kashmir, and today, as part of the trial, the train is right now going through this picturesque valley of Kashmir. And my VJ will show you outside these snow-capped mountains, and the sort of mesmerizing view that I'm going to witness on this train journey is unimaginable. It's a trial run of Vande Bharat train, and historic one, given the fact that for the first time, J&K, particularly the Kashmir Valley, actually is going to get connected by train to the rest of the country. It was in the 70s for the first time Jammu got connected with the train to the rest of the country. Before that, history has that it used to go to Sialkot, which is in Pakistan. But now, for the first time, the railway has finally got the Vande Bharat train. You will notice here it has been specially designed. These windows are heated, so if there is snowfall, it will ensure that there is no snow that hampers your view. There is heating, there is air conditioning, there is maximum comfort, and there are other small tweakings done by the Indian Railway to ensure that this Vande Bharat train runs smooth in Kashmir. There was an internal train which used to run, which was inaugurated during the UPA time, but then after several years, this project was ongoing, and this is a major and a massive project that is ongoing, which is now just completed actually, and we might hear the inauguration taking place very soon. And it's a very comfortable seating that we notice here, and if you look at around me, it feels like it's going smooth. Must be going 80 plus at the moment at the speed, but it looks very smooth and comfortable ride. Now this train will pass through 38 tunnels, which covers more than 115 plus kilometers of your journey once you start from Katra. But people have been saying that what they actually need is a direct rail between Delhi to Srinagar, and that will actually help tourism, that will actually help people commute, students and people from all walks of the life. But nonetheless, this project is landmark and historic, which will soon be inaugurated, and the country will have for the first time access to Kashmir through the road link, and people would have to actually buy air tickets during the winter time at a very high cost. But now with the train coming to Kashmir, you will have comfort and luxury to travel outside. But there are issues. People want the train should come to Kashmir directly instead of stopping in Katra, and it should directly come to Kashmir. One has to see that what happens with that. But yes, this project has been massive. There are bridges, including the iconic Chenab Bridge, which has a length of 131 3.15 meters and has an arch span of 467 meters, and this is this is actually 35 meters taller than the Eiffel Tower, and is a massive engineering work that has been done. You will notice here that this goes through the beautiful valley of Kashmir, and in the months of snow you will miss riding Vande Bharat if you are not commuting through it. But there are major challenges. This will boost economy, this will boost tourism, but the challenge right now is to make sure that this train comes directly from Delhi to Srinagar and does not make a lot of stop, because it is in Katra that you have to change. But the government wants, including the Chief Minister, and they have they possibly communicated the message that this train should directly commute from Delhi to Srinagar, ensure that people get the best of travel. And so I'll show you one more thing. My VJ will come with me. You'll see, as part of the security, CCTV cameras are placed around everywhere.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Our next guest, our person of interest, is someone whose work has helped more than 100,000 babies across the entire world. Ratul Narayan grew up in the US, but it was right here in India that he created Bempu. It's a temperature tracking watch for babies that helps fight the threat of hypothermia.
So India recorded the highest number of preterm babies in 2020, and the preterm birth is the single largest killer of children under 5 years of age. Now, Ratul's device was called one of Time magazine's 25 best innovations as well. So let's go out straight away to him to find out more about what's really happening. Hi, good morning, Ratul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Son. Hi, Toya.
Hi.
Great to
Hi.
see you.
Can we just start by first asking you to tell us a little bit more about what exactly Bempu does?
Yeah, so Bempu, we're a Bangalore-based company that develops innovations to help reduce neonatal mortality around the world. We have innovations in the space of neonatal hypothermia, apnea, and kangaroo care.
I see.
Very cool. Okay, so what's the story? Tell us, Ratul, I hope it's all right to say that you have a slight accent. So the US clearly featured. How did you make it here? What's that journey like?
Yeah, so you're right. I have an American accent. So I was born in the US, but my parents are from Delhi. And so growing up, we used to travel a lot to, Nani's house in Delhi. And my father used to work for the World Bank. So I was fortunate also to travel to a lot of African and Middle Eastern countries at an early age. And so I was very aware of the healthcare that I had access to in the US versus what was available in other parts of the world. And so that was my story. I was very motivated from an early age to get outside of the US and work in this global health space. I eventually studied engineering at Stanford. I did biomechanical engineering, and they have a very great program around innovation and bio-innovation. And then I got an opportunity to work with Johnson & Johnson making cardiovascular medical devices in the US. But there was still that, I did that for about 8 years, but there was always that bug in me that wanted to get outside of the US and do something in the global health space. So my story is I took the leap and I came to India 13 years ago, and I got an opportunity to do a fellowship for a company that made low-cost incubators for babies. That got me really excited about the baby space, about the neonatal space, and also about entrepreneurship. So eventually I decided to spend 2 years doing field research, working in different hospitals, observing nurses all across India. And I was really trying to understand some of the top reasons why babies were dying or facing injury in India and around the world, trying to come up with, see what I could do to help.
I see. So, Ratul, the standards on when a baby is discharged, a preterm baby is discharged in India, are very different from how it operates in the world, which is why sort of brings your device into so much more use over here. But I just want to understand, with so many of these other sort of monitoring trackers that you tie around a baby's feet or hand, etc., out there, how is Bempu different?
Yeah, so maybe let me tell you a little bit about maybe I can tell you a little story about what happened when I did this field research that really prompted me to build this device and not other devices. So India has almost a fifth of the world's babies born here, and although there are preterm babies, there are also babies that are low weight. Almost a third of the babies, and those are term babies, but almost a third of the babies in India are born low weight. And so in the US, you might take these babies and still keep them in the hospital until they're something like 2.2, 2.5 kgs. But in India, once a baby is stable, you'll discharge them when they're 1.5, 1.6 kilograms. These are small babies going home. So I remember I was at a charitable hospital here doing my field research, talking to a doctor, and we were in her OPD together in the morning. After she finished her OPD, a parent came with a baby who was unfortunately deceased. And the doctor talked to the baby and, talked to them, not the baby, to the mother, and sort of understood what happened. And then the doctor came to me because I was an engineer trying to develop innovations. And she told me about that this baby had been discharged low weight from our hospital. The baby was feeding correctly. The baby didn't have infection. Baby had come back, was breathing fine for a follow-up. But what she suspects happened is that last night this baby had gotten cold. And when a baby gets cold, it starts to burn off all its sugar and become hypoglycemic. It can become blue because it has trouble absorbing oxygen. This will cause organ failure, injury, and if it's not intervened quickly, that baby can unfortunately die. And this is especially common with low-weight babies. So what we tried to develop was a solution to help a mother like that at home just know that her baby's cold so she can go over there and warm the baby before anything happens. And that's why we developed our first innovation, the Temp Watch. Should I tell you a little bit about it?
Yeah,
Shall
sure.
I tell you?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
So this is our first innovation. It's called the Temp Watch. It's a tiny bracelet that goes on the wrist of the baby. Maybe you can see the picture behind me. And it's given to the baby usually around the time that the baby is being discharged from the hospital or coming off of the incubator. And it goes on the baby's wrist and it continuously monitors the baby's temperature. And if the baby is warm, it keeps blinking a soft blue light. And if the baby is ever cold or hypothermic, it beeps, it blinks a red light, it wakes up the mother or the father so they can warm the baby well before that baby has low blood sugar or trouble breathing or any injury. So what we tried to do in the design phase and developing this was really keep it simple, really keep it for that specific use case of a small baby getting cold at home and parents not knowing that this baby is cold and in danger.
Got it.
Ratul, it's not just India now, if I'm correct, right? It's the usage of this has expanded to countries in Africa too. And has that feedback been helpful? The feedback you might get from a hospital in Ghana, for example, is it different from the feedback you'd get in India, other Asian countries?
Yeah, so it has been very different. Actually, it has been different in different ways. I mean, I think one of the challenges was in India, generally, when we go, we can provide training, we can work with the staff, we can show them how to use it, we can get we can develop protocols, put posters on the wall. We're fortunate now that we have actually deployed with UNICEF in about 15 different countries and WHO and different governments and development agencies, especially across West Africa, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau. We recently did a deployment in Belize. But now we're doing these deployments remotely. We're doing deployments during COVID. So we had to have good training programs online. We had to not just teach about how to use this bracelet, but how to keep the baby warm. I mean, this alerts if the baby is cold, but you actually don't want the baby to get cold. You want to keep the baby warm. And when the baby's cold, what do? We had to translate our materials in different languages. So there's been a learning curve, but now I think we've got it to a point where it's very scalable. I'm happy to share that the Central American country of Belize now will be giving this bracelet to all premature babies over the next 2 years. And staff is very comfortable in deploying it because it is such a simple and easy innovation to deploy.
That's nice. Simple, easy innovation, but what about cost then, Ratul? Because if you want to scale it up in India, if you want to take it to other countries like Africa, that's going to be key?
Yes, absolutely. So every year we've been reducing the price. We sell in the private market at 2,500 rupees, which is a corporate rate. But when we sell to UNICEF and we sell to WHO, we heavily subsidize it. And every year we've been reducing the price. And I'm happy to say that almost 80% of the babies who have received our bracelet have ended up receiving it for free through subsidies that we've provided and through donations and funders that we have, like the Gates Foundation and buyers like UNICEF and UN agencies.
Ratul, I believe we've run out of time, but it has been so lovely to talk to you, to get to know a little bit more about that innovation. Thank you for showing it to us. One can even imagine a baby's wrist fitting into that, right, into that bracelet.
I'm actually thinking it can be used for adults as well, for very old people as well, for temperature control is right there as well. Before we let you go, do you want to tell us what Bempu means? Why is it called Bempu?
It's a baby temperature monitor, and so I called it the Bempu monitor, and went with it.
Okay.
And
nice.
can it just to take someone's question further, can it be applied to people who are much older? Do thermometers exist for them? So there's no need in that sense.
It can. It works specifically on babies because when babies get cold, their hands and feet get very cold, and we pick that up, and we pick that up early. So it works great on babies. But if you or I get, first of all, I'm 90 kilograms. It's very difficult for me to become hypothermic. My body will shiver. But babies, it happens all the time, and we can pick it up even at the wrist. With adults, you'd have to do something a little different, either in the armpit or on the ear.
Got it. Got it. We'll have to leave it there. Ratul, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on this innovation. On that note, we're going to slip into a very quick break. TGIF coming up on the other side.
So finally, the Vande Bharat train is in Kashmir, and today, as part of the trial, the train is right now going through this picturesque valley of Kashmir. And my VJ will show you outside these snow-capped mountains, and the sort of mesmerizing view that I'm going to witness on this train journey is unimaginable. It's a trial run of Vande Bharat train, and historic one, given the fact that for the first time, J&K, particularly the Kashmir Valley actually, is going to get connected by train to the rest of the country. It was in the 70s for the first time Jammu got connected with the train to the rest of the country. Before that, history has that it used to go to Sialkot, which is in Pakistan. But now, for the first time, the railway has finally got the Vande Bharat train. You will notice here it has been specially designed. These windows are heated, so if there is snowfall, it will ensure that there is no snow that hampers your view. There is heating, there is air conditioning, there is maximum comfort, and there are other small tweakings done by the Indian Railway to ensure that this Vande Bharat train runs smooth in Kashmir. There was an internal train which used to run, which was inaugurated during the UPA time, but then after several years, this project was ongoing, and this is a major and a massive project that is ongoing, which is now just completed actually, and we might hear the inauguration taking place very soon. And it's a very comfortable seating that we notice here, and if you look at around me, it feels like it's going smooth. Must be going 80 plus at the moment at the speed, but it looks very smooth and comfortable ride. Now this train will pass through 38 tunnels, which covers more than 115 plus kilometers of your journey once you start from Katra. But people have been saying that what they actually need is a direct rail between Delhi to Srinagar, and that will actually help tourism, that will actually help people commute, students and people from all walks of the life. But nonetheless, this project is landmark and historic, which will soon be inaugurated, and the country will have for the first time access to Kashmir through the road link, and people would have to actually buy air tickets during the winter time at a very high cost. But now with the train coming to Kashmir, you will have comfort and luxury to travel outside. But there are issues. People want the train should come to Kashmir directly instead of
Hello everyone, I am Kaveri Gupta and welcome back to Thank God It's Friday, your ultimate weekend guide. The last Friday of January is here and we have got a fresh list of movies hitting the theatres today. From action thrillers to spine-chilling horrors, let's dive right in. First up, we have Deva, an action thriller starring Shahid Kapoor, directed by Roshan Andrews. Shahid plays a rebellious police officer who unravels a web of deceit while investigating a high-profile case. Joining him are Pooja Hegde and Pavel Gulati. Next is the American horror film Companion, featuring Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. The plot revolves around the mysterious death of a billionaire, which sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend getaway to the lakeside estate. Last but not the least, we have Fatine, a Gujarati horror comedy. The film follows two goofy police officers who must spend the night in a haunted mansion to save their jobs and get their lives back on track. And for those staying in, here are some exciting OTT releases. On Netflix, we have Pushpa 2 The Rule, continuing the saga of Pushpa Raj, a labourer turned kingpin in a red sandalwood smuggling industry. Released in theatres in December 2024, it became the second highest grossing Indian film of all time. Also streaming on Netflix is The Snow Girl Season 2. This gripping series follows a young journalist's relentless pursuit of the truth after a girl goes missing in Malaga, Spain. Finally, on Disney Plus Hotstar, The Secret of the Shiledars takes you on a treasure hunt that uncovers the legacy of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and Shiledar's role in shaping the Maratha era. Directed by Aditya Sarpotdar, it stars Rajiv Khandelwal. Now, let's take you to the ground and talk about some exciting events this weekend. First up is a treat for all the music lovers. Gurugram, get ready for an extraordinary evening and experience the soulful melodies by none other than Arijit Singh, who is performing live on Sunday. In Mumbai, the Leer Mehndi is set to light up the Nita Mukesh Ambani Cultural Centre with his electrifying performance tomorrow. Also happening in Mumbai is Spoken Fest, a multi-city, multi-stage festival on February 1st and 2nd, celebrating the power of storytelling through art, comedy and music. Watch your favorite artists, comedians, musicians all come together in one multi-stage festival of expression. And for art lovers, don't miss Bauli, a performative experience tomorrow which reimagines the cultural legacy of Indian step wells through storytelling and design. Well, that's all for today's edition. Catch us next week for a new list of releases and events. Until then, this is me, Kaveri Gupta, signing off. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.
What makes my...
So finally, the Vande Bharat train is in Kashmir, and today, as part of the trial, the train is right now going through this picturesque valley of Kashmir, and my VJ will show you outside these snow-capped mountains, and the sort of mesmerizing view that I'm going to witness on this train journey is unimaginable. It's a trial run of Vande Bharat train, and historic one, given the fact that for the first time, J&K, particularly the Kashmir Valley actually, is going to get connected by train to the rest of the country. It was in the 70s for the first time Jammu got connected with the train to the rest of the country. Before that, history has that it used to go to Sialkot, which is in Pakistan. But now, for the first time, the railway has finally got the Vande Bharat train. You will notice here it has been specially designed. These windows are heated, so if there is snowfall, it will ensure that there is no snow that hampers your view. There is heating, there is air conditioning, there is maximum comfort, and there are other small tweakings done by the Indian Railway to ensure that this Vande Bharat train runs smooth in Kashmir. There was an internal train which used to run, which was inaugurated during the UPA time, but then after several years, this project was ongoing, and this is a major and a massive project that is ongoing, which is now just completed actually, and we might hear the inauguration taking place very soon. And it's a very comfortable seating that we notice here, and if you look at around me, it feels like it's going smooth. Must be going 80 plus at the moment at the speed, but it looks very smooth and comfortable ride. Now this train will pass through 38 tunnels, which covers more than 115 plus kilometers of your journey once you start from Katra. But people have been saying that what they actually need is a direct rail between Delhi to Srinagar, and that will actually help tourism, that will actually help people commute, students and people from all walks of the life. But nonetheless, this project is landmark and historic, which will soon be inaugurated, and the country will have for the first time access to Kashmir through the road link, and people would have to actually buy tickets, air tickets during the winter time at a very high cost. But now with the train coming to Kashmir, you will have comfort and luxury to travel outside. But there are issues. People want the train should come to Kashmir directly instead of stopping in Katra, and it should directly come to Kashmir. One has to see that what happens with that. But yes, this project has been massive. There are bridges, including the iconic Chenab Bridge, which has a length of 1315 meters and has an arch span of 467 meters. And this is this is actually 35 meters taller than the Eiffel Tower, and is a massive engineering work that has been done. You will notice here that this goes through the beautiful valley of Kashmir, and in the months of snow you will miss riding Vande Bharat if you are not commuting through it. But there are major challenges. This will boost economy, this will boost tourism, but the challenge right now is to make sure that this train comes directly from Delhi to Srinagar and does not make a lot of stop, because it is in Katra that you have to change. But the government wants, including the Chief Minister, and they have they possibly communicated the message that this train should directly commute from Delhi to Srinagar, ensure that people get the best of